Hey there, world. Welcome to the inaugural episode of True North Sports Talk. I am your host, Peter Barclay. You may recognize me from the 3-minute drill, doing your daily recaps in the sports world. And this podcast, we are going to take a look at North American sports. Specifically, as the True North would indicate, we are located in Canada, so there's going to be a lot of focus on the Canadian aspect, but we are going to cover all sports. Doesn't matter what league it is, we will talk about it. If there's an opinion to have, you can find it here. So, this is our first episode, and coincidentally, it starts on the very day that the NHL playoffs start. So for the next half hour, buckle up, grab your popcorn, your chips, your pop, soda if you're one of our American friends, and just sit back, kick back, and get all you need to know about the NHL playoffs. So let's dive right into it here. The first playoff series that we're going to look at, we're going to start with the 5 Canadian teams. We're going to do a few minutes on each series that they're going to be involved in. So for some of our American friends, there will be some teams involved for you guys too. And if we have some time near the end, we will dip into even further a couple other teams that are involved in the playoffs. So we're going to start out with a bang. We're going to start out with the big boys. And this is going to be a battle of the Titans, a war of attrition. This is, in Canada at least, known as the Battle of Ontario. For anyone who doesn't know, there are 2 NHL teams in Ontario, the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Ottawa Senators. Now this is going to be a barn burner of a series. Now, if you look at the head-to-head record this year, it would appear to some that Ottawa actually has the advantage and the Maple Leafs are the underdog. The head-to-head series during the season was Ottawa 3 wins, Toronto 3 losses. Now, we all know that when the playoff starts, that's a new animal altogether, that you can throw everything else out the window. But here's the deal. If Tkachuk is healthy, and if Mr. Stevenson is healthy, or Sanderson, forgive me, Jake Sanderson, if he is healthy, and those guys on the Ottawa side, that team is very gritty. And they are going to wear you down and make you work for every inch that you get. So that's going to be a real tough go for the Toronto Maple Leafs. The X factor that we're looking at for the Leafs, the guy that could change everything in this series, is probably their most experienced playoff player who has actually won a Stanley Cup before, and he's in one of the most important positions on the ice. That is Anthony Stolarz. He is the goalie. Now, if he can be his rock-solid self like he's been all year when healthy, he gives the Leafs a chance to win every time he goes between the pipes and every time he mans that blue ice. So look forward to that. Now, for all you number crunchers out there, and there's a lot of different stats we could jump into here. But on paper, if you look at the stats, save percentage for the Leafs, 92, so 926, that's ranked second league-wide. And that's between Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz. They have a very solid goaltending tandem. Ottawa's goaltenders are probably middle of the pack. They're at a 914 save percentage. Good enough for 12th in the league, so that's almost middle of the pack, just a little above average. Let's see. Goals for percentage. the Leafs are sitting at a 55.48, good enough for 4th in the league. And let's see, what other stats do we have here? Now this one is going to be a very, very important stat. And this particular stat, if you're into the numbers, gives the Leafs a bit of an advantage. So the power play percentage, the Leafs were ranked 7th in the NHL this year. They were at 25% on the power play. The Ottawa Senators weren't far behind, but that dropped them a good 6 places behind the Leafs at 23.5%. So again, that would appear like there's a bit of an advantage there for the Leafs if they can work hard, move fast, use their speed to their advantage and draw penalties. That will give them the advantage over the Senators because their power play, when it's right, it's really right. And that will give them, it'll have Matthews on the ice more, Nylander on the ice more. It'll have Marner likely playing the D on the power play, and he's even come out and said that he actually likes playing back there. You'll have Tavares on the ice more, and those are all good things for the Leafs. You want those guys on the ice, and you want them firing pucks at the net. Now, on the flip side of that, with all the rough stuff and the retaliation that may go on with your penalty kill now, both teams are kind of middle of the pack, which is why it's a bit more of an advantage to the Leafs, because their penalty kill percentage is 78.1, good enough for 17th, so a little bit what you would call below average or below median. And a couple of ranks behind them are the Senators at 77.9, good enough for 19th. So that's a big advantage, as it were, for the Leafs. And numbers are just numbers, really, because all that can change in the playoffs. If a team gets on a heater, there's really nothing you can do about it as the opponent. So it would appear like the Leafs have a numbers advantage at least, even if they lost all 3 games during the regular season. Again, I could see this series going 7 games. I could see it being a knockdown, drag-out war, and the Leafs are going to need the Robertsons and the Myerses and those guys to be that ruggedness, to combat the ruggedness of the Senators. And this is where a guy in past years like Ryan Reeves always came in handy, because he could go out there and throw hands with Tkachuk and get the Leafs going the way Tkachuk does for the Senators. Now, here's a big discrepancy that could work in the Leafs' favor if you're a Leaf fan. The league rank for the Leafs, they are ranked 7th in goals for per game, and they are ranked 10th in goals against a game. Whereas this is where the big drop-off, unfortunately for Ottawa fans, comes into play, is goals for is... So goals for the Leafs was 3.25 a game. So that's 3 goals a game, basically. 3 to 4. For the Senators now, they are just under 3, so let's call it 3. And they are ranked 21st. So there's a big drop-off in goals for. Now, having guys like Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares, you would kind of expect that goal discrepancy a little bit for. Now, the goals against per game is almost even. They're ranked 10th for the Leafs, 11th for the Senators. So they're pretty good at keeping pucks out of their net on both sides. 2.79 and 2.80. So they're almost dead even in the goals against. But it's that goals for that may come into play here. If it doesn't, and if the tides flip, the Leafs are going to be in real trouble in this series. And the thing about it too is, if you go even a little bit higher up, a little bit deeper, you're looking at Travis Green being the hard-nosed type of guy that is the coach for the Senators, and you got Craig Berube, who is another real hard-nosed guy, being the coach for the Leafs. So from the top all the way on down, this is going to be a barn burner of a series. So now that we've looked at the Leafs and Senators, I gave them a bit of a longer run because that's 2 of the 5 Canadian teams playing each other. So we're going to jump over now here to the Canadiens and the Capitals. That is series number 2 that we're going to talk about here. Now, the Capitals, it's not real hard to see how this goes. So their head-to-head matchup during the season, Capitals 1-2. They had what looks like an overtime or shootout loss. So that puts the Canadiens at 1-2 against the Capitals. Now, this is a real scrappy Canadiens team that made it to the playoffs on the last day of the season. So they're going to be a real hard out because they're fighting tooth and nail just to get there. And the Capitals, they need no introduction. They still got Tom Wilson, who's going to knock bodies all over the ice. He can put the puck in the net surprisingly well for a guy who's that gritty. And you got the great 8, who has the monkey off his back from chasing Wayne Gretzky's goal totals all these years. And he can just play free and easy and bang that puck in the net from his sweet spot all series long. On the Capitals side, they do have a fairly strong goaltending tandem there, and if I'm not mistaken, they're both right-hand catch goalies that they have. Now, if we're looking at the percentages again like we did before, they're actually very similar here for the save percentage. We got a .907 for the Capitals, .901 for the Canadiens, so neither one of these teams is real good at. They're ranked 21 and 25 out of 32 teams now. And so that's your bottom third of the league in save percentage. Now, let's see here. So the power play again and the penalty kill again is going to be possibly the difference in this series as well, because the Capitals rank about, 7 ranks higher on the power play than Montreal does, and about 5 ranks higher when it comes to the penalty kill. So that would provide potentially a clear advantage to the Washington Capitals. Now, for all you Habs fans out there, don't you fret. This is a scrappy team. They're going to do everything they can to make up the difference. And your head coach, Marty St. Louis, he's a tough little cookie there, and he's instilled that into his team. And he was the heartbeat of that Tampa Bay Lightning team that went to the Stanley Cup the first time they won the Cup. Now, your goals for the advantage again is about 3.5 for the Capitals and about 2.9, so around 3 for the Canadiens. So that's a 2 to 17 rank difference. So that's a 15-point difference. And the goals against is again a real big difference. Like I said right off the beginning with this series, is that the Washington goaltending situation is actually really good and really stable right now. They're ranked 8th in goals against with 2.79, so about 2.8. Whereas Montreal is ranked 22nd, so again bottom third here, with just over 3 allowed per game. So the key to this series is going to be Montreal. 1, don't take penalties, and number 2, keep that puck out of the net. If they can do those things and just be a little more rugged than the Capitals, they will have a chance going into this series. And so let's see, do we have the next one here? So let's go back quickly and find the next series. We will look at the Oilers and the Los Angeles Kings. Now this ought to be a very interesting series based on the two teams. Now the Los Angeles Kings are possibly a bit of a surprise to some, and to those in the California area that are looking at the Kings here, you guys have something to be really proud of and to cheer about, at least to start the playoffs, because this Kings team turned out to be a real scrappy go and made it into the playoffs. And in Edmonton, it's just another Edmonton year. It's gonna be real interesting to see who shows up in the playoffs. Now, on paper, the head-to-head record, it actually appears like the Kings may have an advantage here. They had a 3-1 margin throughout the year head-to-head against the Oilers. So for the Oilers, this is going to be a tough sled. And yeah, so they got to fight hard. They got to show up like they did for that finals run they had there last year, the year before. And with McDavid and Draisaitl out there, it's hard to really count them out fully, because they are going to be a tough team. And again, I think the big question here, and it shows up in the numbers, is going to be Edmonton's goaltending. Now, they have always had this question mark. This has been a big question mark for them for a lot of years. I kind of liken that to from about 2016 until now. The same type of situation has been going on with the Pittsburgh Penguins, is that they have a good team. They just struggle with their goaltending. It's hard for them to keep the puck out of the net, but their big boys up front are so good that it makes up some of the difference. Now, if they had, and they're missing Markstrom this year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to make this a real tough sled for the Edmonton Oilers. So the X factor going into this series is, for the Kings, is likely going to be Darcy Kuemper. He is going to be a very focal point for this Los Angeles team. For the Oilers now, their X factor is going to be Evan Bouchard. So he's got to keep up and be contributing, because he scored 32 points in 25 playoff games last spring. And we're going to need more of that from him in order for the Edmonton Oilers to move past the Kings here. So let's jump into some numbers here. Now, the Oilers' save percentage is where they're going to struggle. The Kings are ranked third with a .925 save percentage. That's really good. The Edmonton Oilers are 23rd. So again, they're getting to the bottom third of save percentage here. They're a .903. In fact, Montreal's save percentage was either right there or a little bit better even than the Edmonton Oilers. So that's going to be a concern, is they're going to have to do a really good job on the blue line in front of their goalie to make sure that they're able to stay afloat in this series. Now, and this is again where the edge, I think, based on the numbers itself, if it plays out during this series, the edge in this case is going to go to the Los Angeles Kings. Goals for, the Oilers are a couple of points better at 3.16 a game, so 3.06 for the Kings, so that's basically 3. So 3 goals for, 3 goals against, or 3 goals each in goals for. So goals against, again, this is where the big discrepancy is. Their Kings blue line does a real good job of keeping that puck out of their net, as does their goalie. So the Kings are ranked second, 2.44 goals against per game. The Oilers, on the other hand, are sitting down in 14th, so around the middle, around the median, and they're just under 3 a game. So 3 goals for, just under for goals against. That's kind of an iffy line to walk there for the Oilers. So this is going to be a tough series for the Edmonton Oilers. Now, for you Kings fans out there, again, this team seemed to overachieve a little bit by some of the pundits' standards, or what they would have thought at the beginning of the year, their predictions. So there's a lot to be happy about in Kingsland this year, and we will see how this plays out. So that is Montreal. We had Edmonton, Toronto. Oh, we got to get to Winnipeg. Lo and behold, we saved literally the best team for last, because Winnipeg, if I'm not mistaken, won the President's Trophy for the most wins out of any team this year. And that's no surprise, because their ability starts in the back end. And it starts with Connor Hellebuck. That guy is on a real roll right now. And this is going to be a goaltending battle in this series, because yes, I mentioned the Jets, and yes, they were the President's Trophy winners, but they are facing the St. Louis Blues. And this is going to be a real fun series, because the Blues are still sporting Jordan Binnington, who is fresh off that Four Nations win for Team Canada. And who is on the other side of that, on the American side? You guessed it, it was Connor Hellebuck. So this is going to be right up there with the Leaf Senators. This is going to be a barn burner of a series. This is going to be hard fought. It's going to be good hockey. And for fans of St. Louis and Winnipeg, y'all are in for a good series. Now, the head-to-head record during the regular season, Winnipeg appears to have the advantage, and being they won the most games, I would suggest on paper they will show out to have the advantage in this series. Winnipeg had a 3-1 record against St. Louis. Now, let's go down here. Let's see what the X factors are for these two teams. Now, obviously the Jets factor is the Connor factor. Connor Hellebuck. We already mentioned him. Everything starts with him and his steady, calm presence on the back end. And then it works out from there. You got Scheifele up front. You got some of these other guys that are just steady, reliable, put the puck in the net, stay-at-home defender type guys that play from end to end, and they are just steady. They don't make a lot of mistakes. And they're just a really solid team. Now, Robert Thomas is probably going to be the guy that you're looking for on the Blues side. So let's dig into some numbers here and see. Obviously, for Winnipeg, they are number 1 ranked in save percentage. Connor Hellebuck has a .934 as a team. I don't know what his is specifically, but as a team, a .934 save percentage. So even when Connor's not in there, they've still been pretty darn good. Now, the Blues are no slouch. They're ranked 9th, so that's still in the upper third of the league at a .918 save percentage. Alright, so this next set of stats, so here's going to be the key for both teams, really, is stay out of the penalty box. Now, Winnipeg ranked around middle of the pack. They were 13th, so using 15, 16 as your median. They were at 79.4 penalty kill percentage. And this is where it gets really important for the Blues to stay out of the box. They were 27th of 32 teams at 74.2%. So their penalty kill was really lacking. And the edge again in power play seems to fall with the Winnipeg Jets because they were ranked first in the league at almost 30%. So 28.9% on the power play. Whereas the Jets, not the Jets. Been a long weekend already. The Blues, on the other hand, were ranked 16th. They had a 22.1 on the power play. So, obviously, with the save percentage ranking number 1, their goals against for the Jets is 2.32, ranked number 1. Whereas the Blues, they were at 11th league ranking at 2.82. So they were still pretty good between Binnington and their defense, keeping that puck out of the net. And the goals for Winnipeg, they were ranked 3rd with 3.35 per game. And the Blues, they were at 13, so they're kind of middle of the pack in almost all their stats. They had about 3 goals for a game. So, as we are getting down to the nitty-gritty of this and we're wrapping up our first episode of Sports Talk North, we have a couple of breaking news items to break here in the world of hockey. And as expected at this time of year, just before the playoffs, teams that didn't make the playoffs are starting to make some moves. And one of those moves was the New York Rangers fired head coach Peter Laviolette after a very disappointing season for the New York Rangers. Not so surprising, maybe, was the Anaheim Ducks. They let go their coach, which, if I get the name wrong, forgive me, but I think it's Craig Cronin, after a disappointing season in Anaheim. So there's been a couple of coaching changes beyond the ones that were made mid-season. And just a note that I missed in some of my shorts for the Kitchener Rangers earlier this week. Their head coach, actually won Coach of the Year in the OHL. So that was some news from that side of things. Now, as we wrap up here, we got a little over a minute left. I just want to say welcome to True North Sports Talk. I hope you enjoyed that we had a setup here for the upcoming NHL playoffs. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel. You can find us on YouTube, on Rumble, on Spotify. Hit us up in the comments. Let us know topics and different sports that you would like to hear from us on. Let us know what you think of the content that we're bringing. And hopefully, y'all are having a good weekend, enjoying your sports. I know it's a bit of a slow sports weekend, just based on which weekend of the year it is. And yeah, love you guys. Come back. Check out our 3-minute drill every day for a daily recap in your sports. And we will see you on the next episode of True North Sports Talk. Love you guys. Till next time. Peace.